Plugin of the week is the Universal Audio Manley VOXBOX. This is an amazing piece of Class A equipment brought to us in the late 90s and from Manley. And they've created some incredible Class A components that work on everything from mastering to in studio. And this was a creation that was designed specifically for working with vocals, although it is quite often used for bass. The actual hardware unit also has a direct input, which can be used here. This is on the Universal Audio platform, and so they've done already, to this point, they've done a couple of the Veramu and also the massive passive EQ. So this is the next one in the Manley collection here. And so if we go over, let's go over the GUI here a little bit and kind of take a quick look. We have an on-off power switch here on the top left. We can set the source for line or mic. What's cool about this is that if you have a UA interface, it will work with the Unison technology, meaning that because the design of this was kind of a channel strip, if you will, that had a compressor, EQ, mic preamp that could be used for someone in a studio, right? So you could set that, you plug in, you get this Class A tube mic preamp, you get a great optical compressor limiter, and then you get passive EQ that's very much like a Pultec EQ passive. And so now what you have is this box that you could use for getting a great vocal sound. Now, the way that it works in plugin form is that you can place it on the insert of the console and your Unison preamp, and then as you go through the settings and switch between it, it will follow, and then you will get this characteristic recorded or added into the mic. So this will become part of the recording. So this would be the equivalent of, the virtual equivalent of going through the actual hardware with the mic and all of that, but you're using your Universal Audio setup as an input. Now what you have here is an input stage here. So you could set your input level. And then you have a gain stage. Now, what's interesting about the gain stage is that it's a negative feedback gain stage. So then, which basically means that as you change the settings here, it changes the amount of negative feedback going into the amplification circuit. And so as a result, you can actually get the effect of more or less gain, but you get different tonal colorations. It's also kind of cool because when you're working with this, you can switch between mic and line if you're just putting it on an insert the way I have it here on a vocal, and you can get two different characteristics without it blowing up. So in other words, in a normal circumstance, if you were to feed a line level into a mic input, you would be overdriving it pretty heavily. You also have a high-pass filter, or what they call a low-cut filter, same basic idea, for 80 and 120 hertz, but it's pretty soft. It's 6 dB per octave, so it's a first-order noise filter. You have a phase inversion here, pretty straightforward on that side. That works also with the direct input as well as the mic and the line input. And then you have your gain amplification stage here. On the metering side, you have the option of showing gain reduction, your line in level, your preamp output. So after you set your preamp stage here, and I'll go over the signal flow in a minute, you'll get that. You get the EQ out, so the signal post EQ, and then you also get a metering for the DS circuitry. So it gives you pretty much everything that you need to set up and work with. If you have a stereo instantiation, you can link the left and right. If they are unlinked or separate, then they will act independent of each other, although having the same settings. So they will respond left-right as opposed to the same. So if they're linked together, the gain reduction will always be the same on both sides. That's the basic idea. The compression can be placed in, it's an Opto Compressor. All right, so what they call an Opto Isolator circuit, which is very much akin to like an LA2A, but this has a lighter ratio. You got a 3-to-1 ratio here. You could put it in, you could bypass it. You have a threshold. What's interesting about this, along with the attack and release settings, is that the way that the circuit is designed or signal flow is designed is you have the input gain control, you have the compression, and then you have the gain circuit. And the way that this ends up working then is if you're compressing prior to the preamp stage or the amplification stage, then what ends up happening in the way that this works is that you are less likely to clip that preamp, even though the actual preamp itself has a ridiculous amount of headroom. As do all the Manley products, but as a Class A component, you got to hit it really hard to distort it. you have attack and release settings. Unlike like an LA2A where you're basically fixed with your attack and release times, these you get settings from fast all the way to slow and 5 options for each. Then you have on this end, you have a limiter circuit. So this basically uses like a limiter characteristic like the LA2A. And then you have a DS circuit. So if you, or when you pop this in, then you could set it to either be a limiter or a de-esser that is focused in or notched into particular frequencies, 3K, 6K, 9K, 12K. So those are the frequency selections that are the center point for the triggering of gain reduction for the de-essing. So we'll bypass that for a second and take a look at those. And you have a separate threshold for that. And then you have a 3-band EQ that is very similar to the MEQ. Now, what happens with the MEQ? The MEQ has a boost circuit, a dip circuit, and a boost circuit. So if you remember the Pultec, it's a passive EQ, an all-time classic passive EQ that's meant to cover the mid-range frequencies. And it generally starts at 200 up to about 1K. And what they've done here is they've extended the frequencies down here. So they've added on additional frequencies, 6 additional frequencies, 150, 100, all the way down to 20 hertz. So if you're plugging something else in there, you get a boost bell curve circuit, passive EQ, very clean, that kind of comes through there. It gives you those extended low-end frequencies. You could use it just for that if you wanted to and bypass everything else. You got the dip circuit, which has very same frequencies, I believe. I didn't double check that, but I'm pretty sure those are all identical. And on the high peak end, you have a boost, which has extended frequencies. So the actual unit, the actual MEQ, tops off at 5K. This adds 6.4 all the way up to 20K, so it gives you additional boost. And all this stuff is really relevant and powerful for working with vocals in particular. So so what we have is, let's listen to just a raw vocal, a couple lines here, and then let's go through some settings and talk about how to rig this up. So what I want to do is I want to bypass the compression, bypass the de-esser, and there's also a transformer at the output, so that's after everything. And so the signal flow is input stage, compression, gain stage, then you have de-essing, and then, equalization, and then the passive EQ, then the de-esser, and then you have the output level control. And so just before there, you have a transformer. So you could put that transformer in if you're looking for that coloration or that warmth that transformers usually add. All right, so let's listen to the vocal, the raw vocal, and then we'll bring in the VOXBOX and start to play with some of the gain.
It's enlightening who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use a start. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar.
All right, so that very first line is a little bit of a resonance there, a little, you could hear that little ringing there at the very beginning. But aside from that, let's focus in on bringing this in. And so now what we have is an input gain stage here.
It's enlightening,
right?
Who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use a start.
We could set it to mic or line.
We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race.
So you get a different coloration there.
It's just what we have to do to just claim.
So here, even though it's on a line, like that mic input actually sounds better. So I'm adjusting the input gain here a little bit because there is going to be a gain differential that we have going on.
Who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use a start. We are standing.
So this actually, it obviously brings in gain,
recognizing the reflection of a superstar.
But I can also play with this.
When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race.
To get a different character sound. So let's go.
It's just what we have to do to just claim the fame.
And let me go back.
It's enlightening who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use a start. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to
So you can hear right away, now there's a little bit of extra gain coming in here, how much, you know, like that immediately kind of opens up the sound.
It's enlightening.
And hold on one second. Maybe I brought my gain.
But together we can use
There we go.
style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race.
And I can see my gain stage right there. Preamp out.
It's just what we have to do to just.
And now what I'm going to do is I'm going
to
kind of work here and bring in the compression. So I'll monitor the gain reduction.
Ain't no stopping, that's just who we are. Trusting who you are, no stopping, ain't no stopping. Ain't no stopping, that's just who we are. Trusting who you are, no stopping, ain't no stopping. Ain't no stopping, that's just who we are. Trusting who you are, no stopping, ain't no stopping.
So with a slow attack,
ain't no stopping, that's just who we are.
Make it a little more aggressive, or I can go with a fast attack and a longer release.
Realizing what we are, we're full of passion. We are everyday people that keep winning.
So I kind of like that better. It gives it like a nice,
yes, we're winning.
Nice evening effect.
When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race. It's just what we have to do to just claim the fame.
Okay, so now we're obviously we're getting some gain reduction. We're losing a little bit of gain here. So this is prior to going into the gain amplification stage. So I'm going to leave that here because we got the output gain and we can make up for this.
It's enlightening.
This is probably balancing out.
Don't have a manual, but together we can use style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to give up
So what I can do here is I want to bring in a little bit of body here. So I'm going to go down here to 150, bring in the EQ circuit here and boost a little bit in there.
It's enlightening who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar.
And then what I'll find is I'm going to see if I can maybe take a little bit of that boxiness out, like here around 700.
It's enlightening who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race.
So I'm going to chase that with a high-pass filter.
It's just what we have to
now
do.
there's a fair amount of sibilance here on this, which you're going to deal with the de-esser, but this is all occurring prior. So I'm going to see if I can bring in a little bit of air here and then let this kind of work below it.
It's enlightening who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar.
All right, now let's work in
when
the DS
your legs
circuit.
Start to give up on you, still
So
run.
what I'll do is I'll switch over to the de-esser circuit here,
It's enlightening
so I can see what my
who
de-essing
we
is.
are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race.
All right, so that seems to grab too much other stuff.
It's just what we have to do to just claim the fame.
So we'll go back there. This either 6K or we'll
It's
see
enlightening
if it's that or 9K.
who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use style. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar.
So that seems to be a little bit smoother in terms of getting more of the sizzle. It's kind of a high end, almost like it was over, like someone cranked in like 12K or something in there a little bit too much. And so we're getting an effect on that. So let's just see.
It's enlightening who we are. don't have a manual, but together we can use start. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar.
Okay, so now in the context of the rest of the mix here, I have something here, but it's there's no effects on this whatsoever. So this is an early part in a mix demonstration, but you get a little bit of an idea of how this sits in the track.
It's enlightening who we are. Don't have a manual, but together we can use start. We are standing just feet apart, not recognizing the reflection of a superstar. When your legs start to give up on you, still run the race. It's just what we have to do to just claim the fame. Ain't no stopping, that's just who we are. Trusting who you are, no stopping, ain't no stopping. Ain't no stopping, that's just who we are. Trusting who you are, no stopping, ain't no stopping.
So you can see how it has this incredible richness and warmth that it brings in, but also this really pristine, clean, open sound. So like the depth and the body of the vocal cut through, but the air and the presence of it, you could hear bypassing it in and out in the context of the track, how the vocal really shines instantly when putting this on it. It's an amazing piece in hardware form. And this is an amazing emulation, combining the aspects of an optical compressor. You could also use a limiter here, which will give you a little bit more of a pure LA2A type of sound, and you set the threshold. You have to set the threshold a bit differently because it'll work more on the full frequency as opposed to the notched frequency areas that the de-esser works from. And then but setting the different preamp stages to kind of balance to get the tone out of it. The attack and release times on the optical is something that's very, very cool. And then the EQ with the extended frequencies on the low end and high end make this like amazing, not just for vocals, for what it was originally designed, but it's also the secret formula for a lot of great bass sounds. A lot of people plug in with the direct to get a bass sound. It could also work great on guitars. You could even put it on a full mix. If you kind of give something a little bit of sparkle and color, and all of that Class A, really beautiful, high-end, real hi-fi sounding, just top shelf, pure kind of sound is all really built in here, and that's kind of what Manley really does best. And I think this is a really amazing emulation. So a really cool one from Universal Audio, the Manley VOXBOX. And that is the plugin of the week.